Mark Tibbs has done this interview on the Seconds Out YouTube channel where he's given his side of the story regarding his split with Dillian Whyte. He says that he was trying to contact Dillian and other members of his team with a view to flying out to Portugal and helping Dillian, obviously during training camp as normal. But he said that he couldn't get through to them. They weren't picking up his calls, responding to his messages or emails, etc. And then a couple days ago, he gets contacted by Dillian Whyte's lawyer, who informs him that his services will no longer be required. Now, if you look at the comments on this video, people are reacting with disappointment. Not so much the fact that Dillian Whyte has chosen to change trainer, but the people in the comments are saying that Dillian Whyte should have had the courtesy to actually pick up the phone and speak to Mark Tibbs directly, rather than getting his lawyer to do that. Well, in situations like this, I don't like to pass judgment too quickly because we don't know the ins and outs of the relationship between fighter and trainer. These are often very private relationships, and we don't understand the dynamics a lot of the time in terms of the way they interact on a personal level. So I'm going to reserve my judgment. But one thing I will say is when Dillian Whyte had his issue after the Oscar Rivas fight, I remember him putting up a post. I think it was on Instagram. It might have been on Twitter. But he put up a post, and the post seemed to imply that Mark Tibbs wasn't answering his messages or phone calls. That's what the message seemed to imply. And it appeared for a short time as though there might be some tension between Dillian Whyte and Mark Tibbs, because Dillian Whyte felt like Mark Tibbs had left him out in the cold and wasn't really backing him the way that he should. This was spoken about by a lot of people online at the time. Now, I don't know whether that really was the case. Maybe Mark Tibbs was just busy. Maybe there was no issue between them. Maybe it was wires crossed, etc. But if there is something to that, then maybe what we're seeing here is a result of the fact that, maybe Dillian Whyte felt that Mark Tibbs should have been there for him sooner and more solidly than he was during that issue after the Rivas fight. And therefore, if he's not going to be there for him in that situation, then in this situation right here, I don't really owe him any more than sending my lawyer to tell him that he's been relieved of it, of his position. So again, that's just pure speculation. I'm not an insider in the Dillian Whyte team, so I couldn't tell you for certain. It's just a possibility. Yeah, some of you guys may remember, right when Dillian Whyte was having that issue, he put some picture up or whatever it was, a status up on, I think, Instagram, and it seemed to suggest that, Mark Tibbs was airing him in the immediate aftermath of that. But who knows? Anyway, as far as Dillian Whyte's training situation now, a lot of people directed me towards one of Beats' recent videos where he says that this guy called Xavier Miller is now training Dillian Whyte, and that Xavier Miller is very influenced by fighters like James Toney and other fighters out of the Midwest, stylistically. And that's what he tries to teach Dillian. And people are looking at the Marius Wack fight as an example of, possibly Xavier Miller's influence on Dillian Whyte stylistically. Now, I don't think this fight right here against Povetkin is the right fight to be doing too much experimenting. Povetkin is not what he used to be back in the days, but he's still a dangerous hombre. He still throws short, hard shots. He was an Olympic gold medalist. He's a skillful boxer. I would say that Povetkin is more skillful on the front foot than somebody like Derek Chisora. And we saw, he's not as relentless as Chisora over the course of 12 rounds. Not as physically strong, I don't think. But he's more skillful on the front foot than Chisora. I would say anyway, in terms of the punches that he throws and the way he sets his shots up. Chisora might have better head movement coming forward than Povetkin, but in terms of the way he sets his shots up, no, Povetkin's more skilled. And we saw, as I say, the issues that Derek Chisora gave Dillian Whyte in both fights. So for Dillian Whyte to start experimenting with new styles and all this kind of business with Povetkin, I don't know, man. Especially a style where you're going to plant your feet more. Look, Dillian Whyte is not a fleet-footed fighter. He's not going to be a Muhammad Ali, okay? He's got pretty slow feet. But if you look at the Oscar Rivas fight and the rematch with Derek Chisora, Dillian Whyte utilized the ring, okay? He's not exactly Muhammad Ali, but he kept it long and he utilized the ring and he boxed in both of those fights more so than slugging. And I think that's the way to beat Povetkin. I'm not saying he can't beat Povetkin on the inside. You know, there's more than one way to skin a cat. But I just feel like he doesn't need to give Povetkin opportunities, right? If you can take certain opportunities away from Povetkin just by using the superior reach, then why not do that? Povetkin is not the same guy who fought Klitschko or who knocked out, Manuel Char, excuse me. Nearly forgot his name. Knocked out Manuel Char and Carlos Takam. It's not the same Povetkin now. Yeah, that was a superior version of Povetkin to the one we have now. So, yeah, I think Dillian Whyte would be better off just keeping it long, boxing sensibly the way he did in the Chisora rematch and in the Rivas fight, and maybe drawing Povetkin's sting a little bit, and then when he sees Povetkin flagging, take it to him. You know, if he wants to go for the knockout. Still got to be careful, but then maybe take it to him later on. Kind of like how AJ did it. AJ drew Povetkin's sting in their fight. Yeah, he tried to stand with Povetkin in the first round, but got himself hurt. Then he wised up and said, okay, let me move around for a little bit. Stab him to the body, you know. And I know AJ moves better than Dillian Whyte around the ring, but same principle. Dillian doesn't have to move as well as AJ, I don't think, in order to pull off similar tactics. He might not manage to get Povetkin out as early as Anthony Joshua did using those tactics, but I still think he can be somewhat effective if he does that. I just feel like if he's going to stand in the middle of the ring, toe-to-toe with Povetkin from the first round, I think he's given Povetkin opportunities to crack him. And I'm sure that Povetkin has got the power to hurt Dillian Whyte. And I know Dillian Whyte's got the power to hurt Povetkin as well. But I personally think that even now, at 40-odd years of age, Povetkin's got a better chin than Dillian Whyte. I think that Anthony Joshua fight put a dent in Dillian Whyte's punch resistance. And I know he's been fighting good men since then. And when you're fighting good fighters and you're trading with them, you get clipped, you can get hurt. But I just feel like if you look at the shots Dillian took in that AJ fight, he was never noticeably hurt prior to that 7th round where he ended up getting knocked out. You know? Yeah, he got shaken and buzzed a few times, but he was never like, you never saw his eyes roll back in his head. And we saw that against Robert Helenius. His eyes roll back in his head. He took so many big shots off AJ in those first 6 rounds without going to the canvas. I just don't see that level of punch resistance from Dillian Whyte anymore. I'm not saying he's chinny necessarily, but I think he's been more vulnerable since AJ knocked him out. And that can often happen in boxing. So, yeah, that's my take on the situation with Mark Tibbs. Again, I don't have the inside track, so I can't start passing judgment and saying, oh, Dillian shouldn't have done this and he shouldn't have done that. Let's wait and see if more information comes out before we, make them calls right there. And as far as Dillian Whyte's choice of trainer, I really know nothing about this Xavier Miller guy, so I couldn't say. But if he's planning to have Dillian fight a more stationary fight in the pocket, I just think it's a bit risky. He might be successful doing it that way, but I just think it's a bit unnecessarily risky against Povetkin. Yeah, Povetkin's not going to be able to be there walking Dillian down dangerous for 3 minutes of every round for 12 rounds. No, he doesn't have that kind of stamina anymore. Yeah, he went 12 rounds against Hughie Fury. He was knackered halfway through that fight, but Hughie Fury didn't put anything on Povetkin, so Povetkin was able to see it through to the end. In fact, I remember watching at the time and saying if Hughie Fury had the impetus to put it on Povetkin in those mid-rounds, he might have made something happen. But Hughie Fury is who Hughie Fury is, right? We know what he's like. So, and obviously against AJ, right? Povetkin had been stabbed with body shots, jabs to the body. And by midway through that fight, his resistance had been ground down, and then AJ was able to take him out. So I think Dillian Whyte would be wise to follow a similar game plan. He's not going to run around the ring. He can't. He doesn't have that kind of foot speed. But just be sensible, keep it long. He does have the longer arms. Be sensible, keep it long. You utilize the ring, move around, and just make Povetkin work for his opportunities. If you stand right in front of Povetkin, he doesn't have to work for his opportunities. Yeah, neither do you, to be fair. But again, if you've got the longer reach, I would say use it, particularly when you're fighting an older fighter. The last thing an older fighter wants is to have to, fight for work for his opportunities. Older fighters don't like that. They like their opportunities to come to them. If they're having to work for them, yeah, it's a strain on them that they don't need at that age. So that's my take on it, people. Let me know your take in the comment section below. Dillian Whyte splitting up with Mark Tibbs, getting his lawyer to do it rather than doing it himself. We don't know the backstory, but this kind of thing is quite common in boxing. And again, we don't know the full story behind these things. I remember when Josh Taylor split up with Shane McGuigan. Wasn't it something similar there? Where Josh Taylor didn't actually speak to Shane McGuigan himself? And Josh Taylor, like Dillian Whyte, comes across as a very stand-up guy. He comes across as the kind of guy who, if he's got an issue with you, he'll tell you to your face. Doesn't come across as the kind of guy who'd have to get someone else to tell you instead because he doesn't have the heart, So when situations like that happen, I wonder whether it's actually deliberate, whether they want the other guy to know that, yeah, I'm getting you back for something, or you didn't support me in a certain situation, or your behavior has been questionable, and therefore the way I'm going to split up with you is going to be like this. So anyway, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's happening about. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.